last year. And so it's great to meet you by Zoom. But I'm sorry we're not in person doing this, because I think that's actually even better.
I agree. But seriously, your session last year, Sheila, was one of the most raved about. Everybody who went to it got so much out of this, real strategic communications. You are just gifted at this, and you have been a supporter of public education and Jeffco schools for years and years. And I know I speak for all of us who have engaged with you on various campaigns over the years. And personally as a friend as well. You are wonderful, and we are so very, very grateful for you. So without further ado, everyone, Sheila McDonald, she's phenomenal. You're gonna love her.
God, I love you, Shauna. That's such a great introduction. I hope this is helpful today. One of the things that I've done is there's the presentation that I talked about last year that I've tweaked a little bit, but I've added a COVID piece to this year's presentation, because I think COVID has changed so much, and especially for the schools. And I'm not a parent, and I'm not a teacher, so I'm not in schools, but I have nieces and nephews who live within a mile of me, and I'm watching them struggle. And I have a sister who's a teacher at East High School in Denver. So I'm at least connected with what is happening and the lack of communication. And I don't know how it is in Jeffco. And I do want to, if people have questions or they want to make a comment, please don't hesitate to do that. Just let me know when you want to do that, because I think this really has to be a discussion. So just to get started, what is strategic communication in 2020? That's a really great question. And I think it's everything that we've been talking about in the past. It's message development. It's really putting together a good plan at the beginning. Proper preparation prevents a piss poor performance. And you just have to always think about this, and knowing your targeted audience, and then delivering your message clearly and concisely and consistently. So that's the first thing. And that's, whether it's 2020 or 2021, that's really important. The goal of your organization should be clear. You're trying to strengthen it, you're trying to build it, and strong communication can do that. And it's especially important in COVID. We're going to talk about this a little bit further on in the presentation, but there's a silver lining to 2020, I think, in terms of COVID and what we can gain in knowledge from how to communicate to folks on a deeper level and a more consistent level. And effective, this is for anything. I mean, you look at it from the national level, whether it's politics, whether it's if you work for a company, consistent communication, effective communication helps you fulfill your mission. So that's really what we're going to try to talk about here today. And so it's split into two parts. The first part is really COVID things that we're doing with clients right now, and then sort of the overall, how do you plan for 2021? Because I really think it's two parts right now. And the first part is COVID and how do you meet the crisis we're in and the crisis parents are in right now, and how that impacts your organization. So next slide, Shauna. Okay. Here are two little memes I find. Here's what we thought 2020. The top picture is what we thought 2020 was going to be like. And then the bottom picture is what 2020 ended up being. And so what happens when things don't go as we expect them to go, and how do we react to that? And for PTA, you know, this is a volunteer organization and everybody's life has been turned upside down. And so how do you prepare for that? So this is how I think parents feel in 2020. And so they're overwhelmed, they're working, you know, I think most people are working a job outside the home, or they've worked, you know, they've worked from home. And now, not only are they working from home, but now they're teaching their kids. I mean, I don't know, I tried to teach my nephew's when he was 8, long division. They don't even do it the same way anymore. There's like a big chart thing going on. So I don't know how parents are doing it, but I think this is how parents are feeling right now, and this is their state of mind. Next. And then there's teachers who are another part of your organization and who your organization impacts. And so to teach online, my sister is, she's high risk, and so she'll be at home the rest of the semester for sure. And she's not, her job at East High School is an activities director. And so she's like a people interaction, managing kids. She's not, it's impossible to do her job online, and yet she's having to do this. Her principal is terrible at communication. So it's a crapshoot about what information she's getting and what's accurate, because it's always coming through a third-party source. So there's where teachers are. This is where teachers are. They're asked to do so many things and with so little time. So then this is my question. Is this the new normal? I mean, I think for a lot of people, it does feel like we're in a dumpster fire right now. And especially, I think for parents and for teachers. And so for people who are trying to organize parents, especially, I think that's true. But hope is on the horizon. Better times are ahead. This will not last forever. And we have to keep that in mind, and we have to plan for that. So we have to manage our crisis right now. And we have to figure out how to build our organization and do the things that we, that are the most important. And here's the most important thing that we are telling organizations everywhere, and we tell ourselves. I run campaigns for a living. This is 2020 is supposed to be like this amazing year for me, and it's terrible because everybody's canceled their campaign. So is that you have to give people grace. And you have to give yourself grace. Nothing is going to happen as it probably should or as you want it to. And you just have to say, this is how it is right now. I'm doing the best I can. I'm going to do one or two things well. I'm not going to be able to do everything, and that's going to have to be okay. At the same time, let's plan for 2021 and what we can do when this is over, and it will be over and better times are ahead. Okay, so communication during COVID-19. The good news is everybody's a beginner. The bad news is everybody's a beginner. And so there is a lot of angst about, are we doing it the right way? Are we getting out the right information? Am I giving too much information? And then on the other side, these parents and teachers who you're communicating with are like, what is the right information? And how do I keep track of it? And as you know, in Jeffco, I'm maybe not exactly like DPS, but information's changing. And so what you hear one week, and it's not that, I don't think it's the district's fault either, or the principals. Situations are changing. This COVID is surging. It's not surging. It's surging. It's not surging. And so people don't know what to do. So here's the thing about your communication. You need to keep it simple. You need to have very simple messages to people, and they must be factual. So you want your organization to be where people go, whether it's your Facebook page or it's your website, where people go to get the exact most up-to-date information. And we're going to talk about how to communicate that, but you need to be the resource that people are like, you know what, I'm going to check with Lakewood High School's PTA, because that's where I get information that I know is correct. And so you need to keep your message simple, but keep it factual, and do not speculate and do not give your opinion. I mean, look, it's going to be, I have opinions about when I see the principal's message from East High School, and, basically I'm sure he's doing the best he can, but it's not great. And so you need to keep it factual and keep opinions out of it. The second thing is, and if you haven't done this already, I would suggest you do it. You need to survey your members to see what they need right now. Everybody is running on empty. And I think, people are zoomed out. People are overloaded on information. People's jobs are, some people are their job. They have job instability. Some people have housing and food instability. We don't know who those folks are, and maybe you do in your groups, but you need to survey your members and ask them what they need to do. Develop a rapid response plan, and we'll go into that. Use and vary your means of communication. Sometimes a Zoom call is necessary. Sometimes you can do it in a conference call, and that's easier for people because they can do other stuff while they're on a call. And so think about that, and then check in with your members and really document, and this is critical, document everything you're doing, because you're going to need it for later, and there will be a silver lining in this COVID. And the silver lining will be you're going to learn things about communication that worked that you may never have tried because you were doing it your own way and you weren't forced to try it. And so, we don't change unless we're forced to generally. So we're in a long-term crisis communication right now. Give yourself a break. Okay, keep it simple. So this is about messaging, but it's also about how you distribute information. Your message needs to be clear, concise, and factual. And it should be as short as possible. You're really in an information distribution situation right now. That should be across the board on your website. It should be on your Facebook page. It should all be consistent. And so if the same person is not posting all these things, or if you have different people in charge of different areas, make sure the person who is writing the message and sending it out is the same person. So those things are key, because people interpret things differently, or they're like, you know what, I don't like the way he said that. I'm gonna spice it up. Don't spice it up. No spicing up right now. Post helpful information, and you'll get this based on what you talked to your members about what they need through your survey. By the way, you can do a survey monkey survey, which we'll talk about. And then keep your expectations low. People are doing the best they can, and they may only be able to do one thing all semester. And so this year is really going to be about that. Yeah, okay, 2020 is not a normal school year, and every family is different. So that's important to keep in mind. I would suggest you do a Survey Monkey if you haven't done it. And I would do one again in January to check in with your folks. This is going to give you information that's going to help you figure out what your members need. It's not going to be the same at Hackberry as it is at, I don't know, another school. Lakewood.
Lastly, so yeah.
I can't believe I can't think of another school.
Yeah. Lastly, Elementary is going to be totally different than Hackberry, and Lakewood
Right.
High School is going to be totally different than Ralston Valley.
Right, exactly. So you need to find out exactly what your members need. And it may be a little bit different school to school or member to member. So keep that in mind. It shouldn't be more than 5 to 10 questions. And I apologize for the typos. It was like in 5 font when I was typing this. And my niece who does the PowerPoints for me, her cat got sick last night. That's a whole nother story. So include housing and food stability questions. I think there's more people than we know having those issues right now, job, food, and housing instability. And I think it's just helpful to know, maybe the person you depended on last year to do a bunch of stuff who was great, this year cannot do it. And so you need to just check in about those things. But it should only be 5 to 10 questions, and then lots of rooms for comments. It's worth taking the time to do this, to understand how to plan your messaging and to make sure what you're doing as a community. Yes, so to Jonna's question, these surveys are anonymous. And so, you can just say, is your family struggling with, providing food? Is your family struggling with housing? Has anybody lost their job? Because it's, and you can put a disclaimer on there saying, hey, look, we're just trying to get a feel for how Jeffco PTA can help you and what kind of information we need to be putting out to people. And so they may or may not answer it. You know, don't make the survey that if they don't answer every question, that it doesn't work. So, but there is ways to do that. And these are anonymous, you know, so it's just to get a sense of what the messaging is. Okay, so rapid response. I want to talk about this because we've worked on this a lot with other organizations, volunteer organizations. Use technology. And we talked about this the other day. John and I were talking about it. And then since then, I've talked about it with other organizations we're working with. There are ways to reach people that are not a Zoom meeting or not a conference call, and that can direct them to the right piece of information. So for instance, if the district has put something out on their website that, I mean, I don't know how many average families are on the district's website every day, but probably your Jeffco PTA presidents are on the website every day or every other day. And I think if they put out some information, then you would, one of the things you could do with your group is set up a texting tree. Everybody takes 10 people. The person who sees the information texts it out with the website link on it and says, there's important information on the Jeffco website. Click here if you haven't seen it. And what that does to people is it says, okay, Shauna is texting me this. It must be important. I need to go to the website to get the right information. Maybe it's your website that the information's on and you're telling them to go look at it right then, because then you're saying to people, there's important information. We want you to get it. We're texting it to you, so the link is in the text and it's easy to do. If you have 40 people on your Jeffco PTA and you do a tree where everybody has 2 people or 3 people, it really is an easy way to communicate. It's a cheap way to communicate. And if you've noticed, all the candidates right now are doing text messaging, and they're linking to websites, they're linking to videos. The reason they do it, it's an effective way to communicate, and it's a cheap way to communicate. I'm doing a campaign right now. I just sent out 150,000 text messages yesterday, and with a video on it, and we had an open rate of probably 65%. So that's high if you do this stuff. So so use that technology, and again, use your survey to find out, is it easier for people to get a text message? I don't know about you, but I'm not looking at everybody's website, and I'm more likely to look at a text because everybody has their phone with them all the time. So think about that. Be very succinct in your rapid response. So if there's something new that comes out of the district, a school has shut down, there's moving to hybrid. I don't know all the different things that have come out with COVID because I can't keep track. Be succinct. So what you're telling people in the text and then sending them, or you're telling people in an email, is exactly what's happening, and there's no opinion in there. Facts. That's what you want to do that. And then fact check. So if you get a message about something, even if it's from the district, and maybe, you know, Shauna and Jonna, maybe this is something SJK can do, you've got to fact check that before you send it out to everybody. And just make sure it's true. If it's on the website in the district, you know, it's on the district's website, then that's a good fact check. If you need to call somebody at the district, that's a good fact check. If you need to call Shauna or Jonna, they usually know that's a fact check. But make sure what you're sending out, you didn't pick up off another Facebook page, that you got it from a source that tells what's actually going on. So those 3 things have to be in your rapid response plan. And you really should, if you hear something, the word rapid is in there for a reason. If you hear something on a Thursday morning, don't send out the text Friday afternoon. If you hear something on a Thursday morning, send it out Thursday. And I get it's not going to be, you know, within 10 minutes, but within a few hours that you hear it, you want to send it out immediately, because, and this is sort of what we'll talk about as we get further, but you're using COVID as a foundation to grow your organization because you're a trusted source for factual information. You are responding to people when they have an issue or when there's information that comes out. And so at the end of this, we want people to say, my PTA was great through this whole thing. And we want that chatter. The way you build an organization is you get the chatter going and people are coming to you for correct information. So you need to think of COVID as a building block to build your organization on top of.
And that's actually, I'm just going to tell you too, it's been really effective for Jeffco PTA. We just did a health video. So with Jeffco Public Health and our district crisis response team for COVID, Julie Wilkin, and there's rumors floating around Jeffco. Well, there's always rumors floating around Jeffco, as you well know. So based on a campaign, so Jonna knows this as well. Julie and other district staff too know that we are here to be that partner. So to, provide factual information, because there's been a few Facebook pages that have been, and even Twitter accounts that are anonymous who are saying that our district doesn't collaborate with Jeffco Public Health. And it's happening daily, weekly, monthly. I mean, it's been a collaboration the whole way through. So, we have that partnership with our district staff so that they know we would never, let them pay repercussions for having a job in public health when they're trying to help us.
Right. And that's what you want to do with rapid response is you want the facts out there. And the problem with social media, as and I know, is that people put something out there that they've heard somewhere or somebody emailed them about, and it's not factual. And so what you're trying to do is Jeffco PTA at the school level, but also at the larger level, is you're a factual source of information for people. You fact check. So you're not putting out information that's not correct. If you do, because people make mistakes, you immediately acknowledge it and apologize for it and get that right back out there. That is the thing. Do not let misinformation, especially during this time, because it's a scary time, first of all, but also for parents, they're like at the end of their rope here. I mean, I have a teacher that lives across the street from me, and she has 2 little kids, and she's been a teacher for 15 years, but she's got little guys. And she stood out on her porch with a hose, and her kids were running around, and she just squirted them from the porch. She's like, I have nothing. She goes, I got nothing. And it's like the middle of the day, and she just is like, this is all I can do right now. So I think that's important to know, and we need to help people feel like there is some structure and that somebody knows what they're doing. And so that's part of the silver lining of this. That's your PTA, you're fact-driven, you're data-driven, and you're communicating to your members and to other people in the community what is happening so that they feel they have some control. You want to be known as a credible source. That's exactly right. Okay, so typos are making me crazy here. Okay, when to Zoom. Mix up your meeting plan. I was on Zoom the other day from 7:30 in the morning till 3. Literally, if I could have poked my eyeballs out, I would. First of all, I look at my hair all day, and it's a disaster. And all I can think about is, God, is my hair looking like that all the time? So figure out when to Zoom and when not to Zoom. I think, because it's not all about me, when you're a parent and it's 4 o'clock and there's a PTA meeting and your kids are going crazy because they've been on their computer all day and you've been trying to work and everybody's hangry, can you really sit down for a Zoom call? And so choose when to Zoom. Mix it up. Don't Zoom every time. When do you use a conference call? Sometimes a conference call is great because you can put it on speaker and you can do other things while you're talking, or you can be in the car, which is very dangerous, so don't do that. But you can be other places in your home. And then you need to figure out when a meeting is out. Right now, this is COVID we're talking about. When a meeting is absolutely necessary and when can you convey information in an email or a text and that you don't need a meeting for. you just have to think about that right now, and you have to mix it up a little bit. If you need a Zoom meeting, to have one. I'm not saying don't do that. I'm just saying really assess what's the most effective for your people. Again, that's a question for your Survey Monkey, is how do people need to meet? How do they give and receive information? And then, as we know, time matters because everybody's, sort of derailed right now. So keep it to the topic. And I would say this, I wrote this yesterday, that keep it short and sweet, because I'd also been on 4 Zoom calls when I wrote that. But I would also say, if people need to vent and people are feeling frustrated, set aside some time for that, so people do feel some connection to what's happening in their lives and have a chance to get feedback from other people. So you're gonna have to play that by ear, but do that. Okay, and so finally for this COVID piece, checking in. You've got to check in with your members. You've got to see how they're doing. You've got to see what can happen, what you can do that's better, and what they need, and see if you can help direct them to the right resources. It's more than just being a PTA now. It's being the helpers. The PTA, you're a helper. And so it's checking in with your members to see if they need help. You got to keep good notes about what's happening. We've talked about that already, but I cannot stress that enough. You've got to keep good notes about what works and what doesn't work. So that's the COVID piece. And I think there's probably more things you can do, but do you have any questions about sort of that piece?
Sheila, I think you covered a lot of that. So one of the things that we made an effort to with Jeffco PTA to be an example for all of our local units this last year is changing the structure of our meetings so that your meetings should never be committee meetings. And if you're having a Zoom meeting and you're discussing the fall carnival or whatever event that you can't have this year, if you're spending the time doing that, that's a committee meeting. And if you really want people to come to your meetings and participate, you need to give them something of value. So if it's an educational piece that can help them and their children at home, more people will participate. So, but if you're asking me to talk about the, cookie dough fundraiser or whatever it is, that's a committee meeting and best left to the committee that deals with that, and use your meeting time for something more productive. And we've also done things like, we have to go through, give our financial report. We have to approve the agenda and minutes, but we can do all of our business items within 15 minutes. So even with Jeffco PTA, which is overseeing all of the local units, so there's absolutely no reason for everybody to be sitting there and explaining what they did for the entire last month. That's not a good idea. That's a board report. You write it in an email and just tell people that way and they can skip through it. So, think through that. And also, I know Zoom is this awesome platform and I love it because we can do these classes and we can make recordings and people can watch them later if, our Saturday doesn't work for them. That's wonderful. But at the same time, not everything requires a Zoom meeting. So if there's going to be 3 of us, goodness gracious, there's freeconferencecall.com. If there's only 2 of us, we do not have to have a Zoom meeting. So knock it off. And if I don't want to get dressed that day and I want to wear my yoga pants all day long, which I'm doing right now, FYI, I should be able to do that. And just call me or text me and tell me what you need.
Yeah, I think exactly, Mike. I agree. I think what Shauna's saying is important. It's just, these are not regular times, and maybe it'll help us in the future. I mean, we've all been to a meeting where it gets derailed by, certain activities that are happening in a school. And so maybe the COVID will help us. But I think the PTA during COVID, the communication is about how do you help parents and teachers right now? How do you help families? And so maybe you're not talking about the fall luncheon, but maybe you have a parent that does know 4th grade math and is willing to do a once a week Zoom thing with kids who need help or something like that. I don't know what the answer is, but I think there's different things that you can do and that you can help connect people with, because if you think of yourselves as the helpers, right now you're an essential helper for the Jeffco schools. Excuse me. And if you think about that, and you're also a connector. And so how do you connect to people and help them? And that's really, I know you have your projects for 2021, and we're going to sort of go into the planning piece right now, because we're going to come out of this, and we're going to come out better and stronger. And we just have to manage this crisis right now and make sure that we're doing the most we can to help people. So, so just in terms of the next steps for 2021, and let's talk about that, because for some reason, I have a feeling like on December 31st at midnight, it's all going to get better. Cannot imagine 2021 like 2020. So I may be living in a false universe, but I'm happy here. So I think you want to have you want to still plan, and you want to do a strategic communications plan for 2021, integrating the lessons that you've learned during COVID, because there's going to be important things that you've learned about how to manage your organization and how to communicate with your people. You still need a strong communications plan, and you need team goals. That Survey Monkey will help you do that. You can put together a one-pager, and I think, Jonna, last year we did a sample plan, didn't we? If not, I have sample plans, which I'm happy to send around to send out to people. The reason you need a plan, it goes back to the 5 Ps. Proper preparation prevents a piss poor performance. Think about that in anything that you do. Bye, Natalie. So you need to think about that in everything you do. A plan helps you with that. If you don't have a plan, your messages get lost. It turns into just this, it's too difficult to manage. And then you need to figure out how you're going to deliver your message. Is it a weekly email? Is it a bi-weekly email? Is it through Facebook? And there's all kinds of ways to deliver the message. Is it a text message? The key is the message must be the same. So it's message development. And you need to think about in a regular communications plan, you may say, okay, January is the month where we're trying to raise, $1,000 for the book fair, which happens in March. So January's message is about the book fair and raising money for the book fair. And that's all we're talking about. February's message is, now we're preparing for April and whatever's happening in April. And so in February, we're going to talk about that and what's happening in March. So that's why you have to have this plan, so you know what you're doing and what you want your parents to do. Look, parents, I have found to be outstanding people and volunteers if they know what to do. They just want to be told. Tell us to do this and we will do it. But they get lost if it's too much process or it's too many steps. So you need to simplify the message and just lay it out there for them. How does it happen? We're going to find out here, Shauna. Okay, identify goals. So your membership is key to this. Building your membership, I think, is what everybody's trying to do, because a good membership leads to the next 3, which is fundraising, child advocacy, and rapid response. So COVID, another silver lining of COVID is you can build your membership, because word will get out very quickly that your PTA is a credible source of information and is responsive and helpful. And so you start capturing those people and their emails, and you get them to join you, and you do a membership drive. You should probably think about doing a membership drive. I wouldn't do it this fall, but I would do it in January, where you're asking people to join your organization. A good membership leads to the next thing, which is fundraising. What do you need, and identifying what you need and how you're going to get them. Child advocacy, of course, happens at the local level, happens at the state level. How do you engage parents in that? The more people you have in your membership is how you get people engaged in child advocacy, because they get more information. And look, right now, Colorado is so short on funding. we need child advocates, and we need them at the state level all the time, because even our friends at the state level vote for ridiculous things and they get pressured into it. Think of the state capitol. Do you remember when you went to camp and you were isolated at camp and you thought camp was the whole world and everybody at your camp was doing everything right and nobody else mattered? You weren't even thinking of people on the outside. That is what the Capitol acts like. It's like they're all at summer camp, and God bless them. I love them. They're doing good work. Many of them are doing good work, and most of them are doing good work, and they have the best intentions. But they need a little Tai Chi tap to remind them that we need them to be our child's advocates. And we need advocacy at the local level to say that. I can't tell you how powerful your voices are. I did a phone campaign. I've done a lot of them, but I did one a couple years ago to one legislator, Democrat, who wasn't quite seeing the light and on an issue. And I had 10 people call him. And he called me. He goes, 100 people have called me. It's like, no, 100 people didn't call you. 10 people called you. And so, but to him, and he was telling other legislators, I've had 100 people call me. People are upset with me. It's like 10 people called you, not 100 people. And so you have power. The parents have power. We have to exercise it. You've got to get members so you can do child advocacy. All right, yeah, this sort of goes back to some of the stuff we talked about in COVID. Build your strategic communication plan around your goals. Be consistency is the most important thing. Keep it simple, obviously. Use the different mediums. And we didn't talk about this in COVID, but it applies there too. Visuals matter. Mix it up. If your message has a picture with it, it's probably more likely to get read. You can throw an animal in there. It's probably going to get read. I couldn't find a good picture of a kitten. I almost put a kitten on my message thing today, so everybody would pay attention here. Next is methods of communication. So this is a campaign strategy, is that to be successful in a campaign, people need to hear a message a minimum of 12 times to be effective. And today it's, we used to only have TV or newspaper or mail, direct mail. But today, and for volunteer organizations, this is critical. We have a lot of free things we can do. Facebook, Twitter, texting. And so you need to make sure that when you're getting your message out there, whether it's a membership drive, that you're using all these different mediums. I will say this too. The thing that's really gotten bigger and more effective for me, I'm the chair of the board of a volunteer organization. We use Instagram, and the message is like 5 words and there's a picture with it. And that's where we get the most interaction with our people, which is disturbing on many levels, but it's also a fact. Little videos. Yeah. If you do a little video of yourself talking and you send it out, you would be surprised how many people will open that and listen to it. And it's more interesting to them than just a note. And so for some of you who aren't really comfortable doing that, you should think about that. The visuals matter. And so I think as you're planning 2021, you could line up different members for a different month, so it's not, you don't have to do everybody every month, but I would encourage that and see what kind of response you get. And then your email is still, I think, if you're over 35, email is still the best way to go. The people under 35, email feels old to them, but it's still the best way to get your message out. You need to have a consistent schedule so people are looking for it, much like the Thursday packet, I think that most schools do, Thursday or Friday packets. People are expecting to get that, and now they look for it. Again, your message should be consistent. And then the format, which we've already talked about, information-based, relevance, visual, and factual.
Beautiful.
Okay, this is the bane of my existence. Social media. We have to do it. you have to do social media, and you have to keep it fresh, and you have to do it frequently. I think if your PTA hasn't had Shauna come in and do a little exercise and using social media, you should have her come in and do that. She's excellent at it. You want to engage people. It has to be relevant, and you cannot overpopulate their box, or they will stop reading what you put out there. Twitter should be factual, and it's the same things under COVID that we've really already talked about, but they should be going to social media to get information, and they want factual information, and people need to be lifted up right now. And so factual information, but it's also got to be, if you have a great story from your school, if you have a teacher who, you catch coming in at 7 in the morning, and you can take a picture of her and pop her on, or him, and pop them on it's stuff like that. We're not talking rocket science here. It's things that make people feel connected. And that's what people are trying to get right now. They want to feel connected to something. They feel very disconnected. Video is always better, or else, do things like reverse out the type and put it on a colored background for Facebook. Instagram, I would use Instagram a lot. It's easy to get information out, and it's being used a lot more, especially if you're under 40. And then
I'm finding that one, adding one more social media account. So maintenance is
I know it's hard, and you can do it on all of them. I think you can do Instagram and Facebook at the same time.
Yeah, they actually just upgraded the Facebook pages suite that was for those of us who manage multiple Facebook pages. They just updated it and upgraded it to a business suite. So that should make life a lot more easy.
Yeah.
So we'll get that.
Shauna, it might be worth it for you guys to do a Facebook tutorial again. I think it's changed a lot last year, especially. And I know adding another Instagram, adding another social media account is hard, but you also have to go where people are. Let me just say, social media is the bane of my existence. It makes me crazy. But you also have to go where people are. It's easy to do a video. It's easy to post a video on Instagram. It's just, people like it, and it's growing. So I would think about that. And then, of course, share only facts, though, and share only things that are helpful to people. So keep that in mind. Don't share, I was going to say, don't share silly stuff. I think you want to be a credible source, and you also want to be an uplifting source and a helpful source. And I think if your page has too much crazy or too many memes, like the dumpster fire that I posted, then it's for the folks. And then just when you're thinking about the substance, is it helpful? Is it interesting? And just always ask yourself that. I used to be a teacher, believe it or not. I was a terrible teacher, by the way, but I had a 3rd grade class, and we used to sit and kids, we do share time or whatever, and the kids would raise their hands, and they would have to say, my comment is helpful, or my comment is a question, because kids are mean. And so we had to make them ask themselves that. And so I would say to you, as you're posting stuff, is this helpful? Is this going to be interesting? Is this something that's worthwhile when you post things? Because you want to get the most out of it, and you want to get the most response back, and you want engagement because you want members so that you can do child advocacy and fundraising. So that's it all is connected. Visuals. So here's the thing. I actually, I like visuals because I think they help you build momentum. And so if it's this fall is a little tricky, because obviously I don't know if you're all back in school full time or you're hybrid, but it's, this may be for next year. But I think when you have parents walking around asking me about the Bromwell PTA, or the Hackenberry PTA or Ralston Valley PTA, I think it says to people, hey, we have something going on here. I want to be a part of this. And then you make people ambassadors to that. Banners do the same thing at the beginning of the year. You can get a banner, one banner, it can hang in the fall. You can hang it again in the January. Shouldn't be up all the time because it'll lose its effectiveness. And then think about, you know, if you're having an event or a meeting and you have a couple of t-shirts made and you give them as prizes, you know, proud member of the Ralston Valley PTA, or I mean, you can think of your own slogans and hand those out to folks. It matters to people. They want to be part of something. So you just need to think about it like that. So swag can help you build momentum. So meetings, which we've already talked about, this is really what I talked about last year. Meetings do create momentum. They build a culture of collaboration and it develops accountability. I think this year, obviously, we're in a little bit of a different place. Once we get back to normal, I do think meetings should be very welcoming, and you should really encourage your members, you know, whether or not you have a member who is a welcoming ambassador or I don't know, because, you know, sometimes it's intimidating if you're a kindergarten parent, mom or a dad, or really if you're a dad, and you walk in and you see a room full of women who are all talking to each other and you don't know anybody, it's very hard to come in and get engaged. And so do you have somebody in your group who's like a new member greeter, who's going to introduce people and walk them around? That has got to be an assignment. We didn't talk about that last year, but I've been to a couple of meetings. I'm on the East High School Foundation board, and we've talked about that a lot, of how do you get parents engaged. We happen to do potlucks, obviously not this fall, but we do freshman potlucks where we have them at people's houses, and you know, we all go and we greet people. Like, our job there is to bring people in and engage them with other people. So I think you'll create momentum if you make your meeting a very welcoming place. And please don't forget the dads. I think, you know, historically PTAs have been mostly women, but there's, you know, the last 10, maybe 20 years, the dads are engaging much more now. And so, but they're probably not the majority. So make sure that the dads are getting engaged and feeling welcome too. And also, it should be fun. The PTA shouldn't be like this dredge. It should be, hey, we do fun things here. We're fun people. So.
Yeah.
All right, and this is just finally, communication is a two-way street. Get feedback from people. Don't worry if they're critical. Look, everybody's critical of what you're doing because, you know, it's easy to throw criticism around. So, you know, you got to be like a duck, let it go off your back, keep swimming. But if there's valuable criticism, you know, take it. Be nimble and flexible. So don't get so locked into one way of doing things, especially if it's not working. My husband's a tennis pro and I play tennis, and he comes and watches my matches occasionally, and I'll be getting hammered and playing on the baseline, getting literally hammered. And he'll come over to the fence and he'll be like, hey, find a different way to lose. You know, don't stand back at the baseline, you're losing. Go to the net and lose up there for a while. So I think you want to be nimble and flexible, and that if something's not working, you know, don't marry it. Think of other ways to solve it.
I think that's one of the big hindrances in PTA. We hear a lot of, especially if you're the new, you know, the new board or new president coming in, and you know, the past people, I always want to tell you, well, this is the way we've always done it and it works just fine, and they don't want to make those changes. And you know, to be honest, some PTAs have not kept up with technology, you know, or social media, or they want to develop policies that limit social media so much that the only thing you can, you know, post has to go through a 14-step approval process. And that is just not, you can't operate that way. So you have to trust your people to be able to do things. But, I mean, it's a good time during COVID, as far as I'm concerned, to make the change to the world of technology for your PTA, because you can join online, you can attend meetings online. And for that matter, this may be more, these Zoom meetings in the future when we can have other meetings as well. Jen and I have been talking about this with our fall conference and with our meetings. So being able to offer the remote attendance going forward is probably going to be a way to engage people so more people can actually participate.
Actually, Shauna, that's a really good point. That's one of the changes that's coming about, and it's coming everywhere, is people are, and I'm on 2 other boards, and we're on one of the other boards, we're implementing Zoom all the time now, because I have some older members on the board who can't always drive into a meeting, and before they've just missed the meeting. Why we didn't think of Zoom, we just didn't think about it. But we're going to be offering an in-person meeting for people who want to do that, but also Zoom access. And so we're trying to figure out how to do that at this organization. But that's going to be part of it. Things are changing, and as I think Mike just said, change is hard, and some people don't want to have change. But I think if you set the tone at the beginning of expectations, and you recognize that there's 1,000 great ideas out there, and your idea may be great, but it may not be great for this month or this year. It may be an idea that's great in a year. And so you sort of have to say to folks, we value all ideas, we want to hear them, but if we don't take your idea, that's not because we're ignoring you, it's because it's not working right now. So we say at my firm, because we do so much writing and everything gets edited and re-edited. And so we say, carry it, don't marry it. And I think if you sort of let people know ahead of time that they're valued, but don't get so, entrenched in an idea that you cannot move forward. And I think we're going to see changes coming out of COVID, and there's going to be good things that come out of this. I can't say that enough. So, any questions? I know that's a lot of information. I can send around a sample communications plan, which I'm happy to do. I send it to John and Shauna, and a timeline of how you do things.
We can put it on our website with this video, so that people can download that.
Yeah.
But yeah, make sure that things are purposeful, but and remember the happy things too. So we've made a concerted effort with the Jeffco PTA Facebook page as well to make sure that there are happy, funny things that parents can relate to, in between our bits of advocacy. But all of that is very important. Our newsletter looks very different. It is very much, here's the basics, what you need to know, and here's a link, and here's a link, and here's a link, so that you are going directly to the information that you need instead of a lot of fluffy language. And we have those people who are really good at the fluffy language and flyers, but please remember, not everybody needs or has the time for the fluffy language right now. So don't feel like you have to be crafty in your communication stuff. And Sheila, again, I am so very grateful to you. You have been such a wonderful friend and partner to all of us in Jeffco for so many years. We love you very, very much.
Well, I hope this was helpful. And I'm always, I said this last year too, but I'll say it again, is that John and Shauna have my email and my phone number. And so if you need some support putting something together, or you need help in some other way, or you want to bounce an idea, please don't hesitate to call me. I'm happy to help, or shoot me an email. I'm happy to answer an email. If you need to text me. And here's the thing too, you should just know, especially until November 3rd, because I'm in campaign season, you may have to do it twice. Don't be afraid to do it twice. I phone bank everybody. So if you need to call me twice, or haven't responded, if I haven't responded in 24 hours, then call me again or text me again. So please don't be afraid to do that. John and Shauna know that I have no problem with that. And I may answer in the middle of the night, but it's fine to do that. And so I'm happy to do it. And, we're going to get through this time. It's crazy. I think everybody's doing the best they can, and give yourselves a break.
Well, we're going to move on to our next session. And again, everybody,
Thank you.
Thanks to Sheila. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Have a great day, Sheila. Thanks for doing it.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.